Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday in the West. I'm very thankful. So is my dog. You see her making her bed. Yeah, yesterday when I woke up yesterday, I was feeling really tired. And sometimes I have these hormonal fluctuations. And it could be triggered by certain foods because certain foods have a lot more hormones than others. And then I drank a shot of my juice and it recalibrated my body. So it's going to happen, you guys. I mean, this is what the whole food supply is about, is how does it impact your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals, and your body when it gets too much of any one thing, when there's an overabundance, and then it causes symptoms such as fatigue or anything else. That's the body trying to recalibrate on its own. But you can help your body recalibrate when you're healed and sealed by taking shots of J juice. However, you guys have just started or in the middle of it, and you're in the middle of recalibrating your body. So you're going to have symptoms all over the place, and you're not going to demonize them. You're going to accept them because that's part of the Jilly Juice protocol, is that you don't demonize symptoms. You deal with them, and then you figure out a way to manage them with everything else that you do in your life as far as priorities. So anyways, I was watching some of the Facebook feed last night regarding vaccines, and New Jersey is going through its own vaccine legislation type of growth. And I didn't really follow too much, but I think there's something to do with, they thought that one of the legislation or one of the, oh God, I don't know, one of their bills are going to get torn down or something, but yet it still needs to be voted on. So I don't know. But I found a different way to attack the, I don't say attack, found a different way to raise awareness when it comes to, it's not going to make a difference if they cut down legislation. If they completely just take away all the legislation against mandatory vaccines. Predispositions is what is not being discussed. Predispositions is almost like it's not even spoken when it comes to the vaccine debate, as well as the prescription drug debate, as well as all the different immunotherapies debate. And so it's then what everybody does is they do correlation equals causation. If you got vaccinated, therefore it causes autism. No, there are actually people that have not been vaccinated that are still triggering autism. Well, why is that? Because they have predispositions and they're not immune to the environment. Okay, sometimes you may have a conglomeration of antibodies. What are antibodies? These are little specific cells that are produced by the body to balance out the body's overabundance or underabundance, something that attacks the body, and then it makes up these little cells to attack it and try to mitigate, try to balance it out. But, and it's kind of like its own separate little cell that encapsulates around the antigen, and then it tries to destroy it, but it still stays in the body unless your body's filtration process works correctly and releases it. But what happens is that people still take on these antibodies, and then it turns into the disease itself. Now, where I was going with that, man, I just lost my train of thought right there. It happens. I go down these little, what do you call it? Rabbit holes. Or what else I call it? Footnotes. But so yeah, so I'm trying to bring up predispositions to people to understand that when you trigger cancer, disease, or chronic illness, it's the body's way of dealing with symptoms. Okay, or it's the body's way of dealing with overabundance. And so, God, man, I wish I knew where I was going with that. But that's okay. Anyways, so predispositions are going to happen regardless. So, man, I must be really like, I've been sleeping a lot lately. I mean, not a lot, but taking naps, because I think it's probably before my menses. What is it, the 14th? I don't know. Let me recalibrate again. So anyway, so the anti-vax community has to understand that predispositions is really the cause. Correlation does not equal causation. Okay? And so anyway, so New Jersey's going through its own little thing with cutting down the legislation. It still needs to be voted on, I guess. And what's going to happen is that they're going to not get the vaccines, and then some big, huge virus is going to come into their neighborhood, and they're going to throw colloidal silver and detoxes at it. And I don't know, it's going to cause more issues. So anyways, but that's one of the biggest issues out there that's not being talked about is predispositions, because that also gets triggered in prescription drugs. It gets triggered even in the colloidal silver and all the different detoxes that are out there that they're going to throw at these kids when they don't get the vaccine. And that's the thing where I was going, is that what's going to happen is people not get the vaccine, and they're going to throw detoxes, and it's going to cause more predispositions to come to surface. And maybe we need to have that. Maybe we need to have a balancing force, such as Mother Nature giving us correlation equals causation, because that's what people are looking for. Is they're looking for correlation equals causation. But do we have to keep reinventing the wheel but I guess we do, because like, you know, our memories are so short and the distractions are so long that people do forget why it is we have the vaccines there to begin with. I mean, to think that the government's trying to kill you is just asinine, but that's kind of where our world is at right now, is that we are suspecting and paranoid of everybody. But then, you know, when people are dying or on their way out, they're going to be like flopping around like a dead fish, a fish out of water. Good morning, everybody. So this is why I took a stance on politics. Okay, I took a stance on politics, which I wasn't going to do, but I almost have to, because now I really see why it is there are certain people that get this. Because let me tell you, in the beginning, I was like, everyone should understand this. What is making people have it so difficult to understand this information? And even though I know that it's not across the board as far as only Democrats are not going to get this and only Republicans are going to get this, there's a specific mindset that is going to take on something that is new, but also it has to do with a person taking on personal accountability, and they're strong enough. So personal accountability is a Republican attribute, and then and strength, being strong enough, is a personal attribute, okay, of a Republican in our government here in America. And so I now have the freedom to be able to express, now there is an actual party that represents my values, even though not across the board, everything 100%, but the stuff that I don't agree with 100%, it would only mean if I was like, you know, someone that was weak. Because, you know, if you have proven yourself to be very good with finances, or know how to work with the market and know all the different loopholes, and you have ways to figure stuff out, and as well as you are a strong character that's able to go out there and meet with people who, you know, in other countries, very strong in foreign policy and very decisive, I have no problem. And so anyways, I was going in with this whole thing with the politics, and now, you know, so when I'm going out there into these public sites, and I'm like, oh my God, you guys are denigrating our president for doing preemptive strikes. Like what I guess Israel does the same thing. They do preemptive strikes. They have intelligence to show that there's somebody planning some kind of bomb, and they're going to go and do a preemptive strike. And that's what my mom told me a long time ago about Israel, because she would give me some lessons about Israel, because, you know, I was raised Jewish. She says, yeah, this is kind of how it happens sometimes, where you have to do a preemptive strike, so that way you can lessen the casualties, but we're more laser focused. We're more laser focused in who it is that we take out. We're not taking out like millions of people. We take out only a specific person that is orchestrating these types of things that could potentially turn into like another 9/11 type of thing. So in a lot of ways, you know, right now what I'm looking at is preemptive strikes is no different than like vaccines, like jelly juice, preemptive, proactive, and it's kind of like, it's so weird. It's so similar. And so anyway, so I'm looking at the Republican Party, and people are denigrating our president for doing that. And I'm like, you guys are acting like anti-vaxxers. You want to wait for something to happen. You want to wait for something to happen, and then you want to react. Well, what kind of thing is that? I mean, that's kind of like a beta male type of thing. I would say beta, but that's kind of like, you know, why would you want something to happen first and then react and then say, okay, now we won't allow it after we have 2,000 people die? And that's kind of right now, you know, what we're dealing with as far as the whole thing with 9/11 is that people are thinking it's a Saudi or it's 9/11 was an inside job, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't even matter. Yay, Rob Zoid, yes, you made it. But it's like, why, like just like the anti-vaccine campaign, you know, if you're not going to do a preemptive exposure, preemptive strike, why would you wait for then something really horrific to happen to your kid and then react to it? And that's the same thing with our president. Okay, he's got to do a preemptive strike. He's an alpha male. He sees the intelligence, just like with J-Juice. We see the intelligence. We already see the evidence of what could happen if you don't do something. And so J-Juice does a preemptive strike against that which is causing your symptoms and harm and weaknesses. Trump is doing preemptive strikes so we don't have another 9/11. Okay. And then vaccines do a preemptive strike. So that way, a preemptive strike, preemptive exposure. So that way, when you meet that virus in the environment, it's not going to take you or down or your kid down. And so that's because now at this point, being reactive is going to do more damage. Okay, reactive foreign policy, reactive health and wellness obviously hasn't been working very well. Hold on. But you know what? It may come down to that. It may come down to that we have enough people who are that weak that are going to have a reactive type of politics. And it's going to then bite them in the ass. When you have a reactive way of dealing with foreign policy, with health and wellness, it is going to bite you in the ass. But I'll tell you this, it's not going to affect me too much. Because I've danced around with politics the last however many years I've been on this earth. Not that many when you think about it, 45, 46 years in February. Been through at least, consciously, at least 3 administrations that I remember. Well, 4. Okay, let's see, was it Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. So 5 administrations, okay? If we survived the last 5 administrations and they didn't have nearly as much intelligence as they do today, back then that they do today, we're going to survive the next because it's just history repeating itself. I mean, history repeats itself over and over again until we learn. Okay? So we'll survive it. Those that are on the jelly juice will survive it because we'll see the indicators, we'll sidestep whatever potential disaster, and we still move on because that's what humans do when they go through extinction level event types of scenarios, is that, you know, the strong will survive, the weak are going to perish. Rob Zoid said, you're 33, you look my age. Yeah. Telemerically, Rob, we're probably the same age when you think about it, telomere wise. Okay. But that's kind of what we may have to go through. We may have to have another 9/11. And then what's going to happen is somebody's going to be like, oh my God, why didn't you do a preemptive strike when you knew they were around? Oh, because we were told that we shouldn't. We have to talk to Congress and all this other. We have to have a discussion over a candlelight dinner and schmooze and sell our position to our own people. I mean, it's becoming so asinine that I'm just like, you know what, whatever, come what may at this point. And that's kind of how y'all have to kind of deal with it because no matter what, the strong are going to survive. The weak are not going to survive. And the weak are the ones that want to have a reactive foreign policy, a reactive health and wellness, a reactive everything. And when you have a reactive type of personality, you will succumb to the elements because you're not being proactive, because sometimes it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late for a lot of you that are living in a reactive lifestyle. You know, when I started this transmission, you're going to see me fumbling a bit in the beginning because I don't always know how it is I'm going to put this all together. But I know there's some kind of point that I make out of this. Okay? But that's what it comes down to, is proactive versus reactive. And then this whole thing with the alpha male. Yeah, you know what? Trump definitely is not a welcome figure in the feminist movement. We know that maybe people think he's misogynistic. Maybe they think he's like chauvinistic. I mean, you have different levels of alpha male versus beta male. And I'll tell you what, Obama is a beta male. Now, I'm not saying he was a bad president. He did good for what he was, you know, for what kind of like, you know, vision he had for us. And believe me, you know, back when I was dealing with my own issues and reacting to the world and all of its division, you know, his hope and change speech in the beginning was great. It was a welcome speech on the heels of George Bush and the 9/11 and all of that stuff. And so then you look at, okay, you know, you have 8 years of a beta male, and then you have forces out there that are pushing against us, building up. Right, Rob, I know, right? When you have forces out there pushing against the American way, eventually you got to deal with it. Just like with cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Okay, we have foreign leaders out there that are still buying into the chauvinist, you know, male-oriented society kind of way. And we still have females here that, even though we have feminists that are very, 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 very strong, they still buy into these social issues. Let's go and discuss over coffee millions and millions of times. Doesn't matter if people die in the background, we still need to have discussions. Sometimes you have to act. You can't always negotiate with your body if your cancer is that bad. Sometimes you have to do chemotherapy. Sometimes you have to do cannabis or whatever type of antibiotic that's out there to at least stop the programming, to freeze it in its place, and then try to build your body back up from there. But that's not what happens in the medical holistic. But at least some people get a stay of execution. And that's what the medical establishment is good at, is giving you a stay of execution. But living on stays of execution is not optimal. Doing stays of execution out there, where you're always going into diplomatic relations, diplomacy, and trying to negotiate with terrorists type of thing, isn't always going to work. Sometimes you have to do a preemptive strike when you know that there is intelligence or something building up. Now, could you say when or where? Obviously not, because it's not like, you know, the cancer is going to tell you where it's going to hit first or next. It's not like the terrorists out there are going to tell you where they're going to hit. You may get some warning, you may not. It just depends. But wouldn't you rather go and zap the programming first before major casualties happen? Or do you want to wait till you get major cancer and then say, okay, now I'm going to do something about it? And that's the disparity between Democrat and Republican. And that's why I had to go to those two. That's why I'm glad I have now a specific party that represents my ideals, that I can legitimately say, not because I'm following a crowd, because I'm part of a Second Amendment. I mean, my husband is an alpha male too, with certain beta male type of tendencies because he's more reactive than not. But there is still other parts of him that's very alpha male that I really, really enjoy. And there's other parts that are kind of beta male that are like, okay, you know, let me be the alpha male in this. And it's a give and take, but he's more alpha male than beta male. Okay? But I mean, just because I'm in an area that is like the people that I hang out with, truckers and bikers and all of that, and I hang out with some pretty tough people. My husband's from a very tough family that is very hard for me to break into, if at all. But they're all, you know, Second Amendment, you know, pro-gun type of thing, obviously Republican, total part of the, you know, the militia type of stuff, okay? But I'm not going to adopt their characteristics and think that, okay, just because, you know, I still had my Democrat point of view for a lot of years. And I was still wondering, like, should I go to Warren because the whole student loan thing, and is Trump really good? And then my protocol kicked in, and it really gave me the understanding from, because I'm dealing with people who hate me as well as people who love me, and the people that hate me are very reactive, don't want to take in new information, very reactive, and very sick because they're too weak to do this protocol. So they're reacting to me and completely tearing me down and trying to demonize me and all that, just like they're doing to Trump right now, even amidst all of this crap that's going on out there in the world. And I'm like, you know what? This reminds me of it, does because I talk about personal accountability, I talk about strength. Then I look at the disparity between what they say rich and poor. It really isn't rich and poor. It's able-bodied versus not able-bodied. And then you realize that mostly the Democrat type of ideology is about social services and programs and dealing with people who are not very able-bodied. And then you have the Republicans who are very able-bodied, totally pure capitalism, which means they're strong, pure Darwinism, and want to make money and maybe hoard it. Okay, fine. Don't want to give money away to people that are not working for it. And then you start seeing the light. Oh, able-bodied versus not able-bodied, strength versus weak. Now it's not across the board. People have shades, and some people are, they're kind of in the middle, but they still lean towards those specific ideologies. Okay, not really anyone's in the middle per se. Some could say I could probably be the most in the middle. I mean, I don't know if I'm most in the middle, but I would say I do have compassion a little bit, but I'm also like, hey, you don't adopt the way in which I'm thinking and you're always trying to undermine and plant seeds of destruction, I'm going to take you out of my world. And I'm very decisive about it. I don't play this negotiation. Some people I'll give a little leeway to, some I won't. Only because I know, but then when they keep, poking at me, then I'm like, okay, I'm done being poked at. See you later, bye. And that's kind of the way that Trump is. But he doesn't he does do a little diplomacy. He wants to do diplomacy. Believe me, if we could solve the world's problems through diplomacy, through conversations, we wouldn't have to turn to war. But there are people out there that don't want to talk. Believe me, if I wish I could talk to people that hate me, but they don't want to talk to me. They want to keep antagonizing me. They want to get me all riled up and then completely stressed out, and then weaken my resolve, so that way they can then put up all their, politics and all of their crap. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. So sometimes, conversations over coffee isn't always going to work. You're going to have to do what you got to do. And sometimes preemptive strikes are necessary. Don't wait for the cancer to completely envelop and then do something about it when it's too late. But that's the politics in our society. So I would rather have somebody like a Trump, who's an alpha male, kind of teetering on the chauvinism, maybe a little misogynistic in some ways, but you know what, whatever. That's Melania's problem. That's his family's problem. But when it comes to foreign policy and really wearing the pants in in American policy, I want someone like him. When you look at the Democrat candidates, Bernie, Warren, Biden, I would not want any of those to be in the executive office. Maybe they could be a vice president. Maybe they could be like in the House and in the Senate. Okay, fine. The House is like the balancing force, is all Democrat, Senate all Republican. Okay, fine. But I would not want someone like a Bernie or a Richard Simmons or a Warren or a Biden in the executive office making these types of decisions, because you're going up against world leaders out there that are very, very primitive and chauvinistic and catering to misogynistic. Okay? I want somebody in my White House that can kind of understand that personality and knows when to push the button, knows when not to. I would not want to have a Richard Simmons in the executive office. No offense, but I don't want someone weak. He may be strong in other areas, but when it comes to making these decisive decisions with things that could tear down our nation and cause more casualties, when somebody destroys their body, Gene Simmons, yeah. When somebody destroys their body, okay, to such an extent or they have so many, imbalances. Now, I'm not saying that Trump is Mr. Healthy. No, he's not Mr. But he has more testosterone, more adrenaline, with the background of finance, and he's charismatic, and he's a good salesman. I relate to him. At first, it was like kind of questionable because I have my own issues that I deal with that I want to find someone to deal with, but paying off student loans through taxes is not going to work. But now I really appreciate him because I do have those characteristics. And that's why that's why I have a bad reputation, because, oh, she's so narcissistic. Jillian is so narcissistic. She'll cut you off. She'll block you. She won't negotiate. She won't debate. She won't do this. And, I'm not going to debate with terrorists, with trolls. I'm not going to waste my time, and neither will Trump. He's not going to waste his time debating with trolls out there. He doesn't have time to do that. He has to take care of all of you, keep you all safe, and try to fight against his own government who's trying to take him down. But I understand balancing forces, but my God, I don't even think that Obama had to go through this. Okay? So I want an alpha male. I married an alpha male for the most part. I want an alpha male in my government as my president. I don't want a beta male. Hem and haw, whether or not they should pull the trigger or not, especially when you have enough intelligence to tell you that there's something brewing out there. Because I think that your kids and your homeland is far more important than some social issue and some let's play nice in the sandbox. Not everybody plays nice in the sandbox, literally and figuratively. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that Trump is perfect, but I would say he's far better choice than anything else out there at this point. Even better than JFK. And I'll tell you what, I spent a lot of years liking JFK. But right now I'm watching RFK go out there and play the whole anti-vax card, and it's completely making me sick. He's ruining his family's reputation. But maybe he never really, maybe the Kennedys really never had a reputation. I just got caught up in the conspiracy brainwashing world of like, oh, JFK was letting everybody know about the whole New World Order and, the secret societies, which I'm sure there are, but who cares? Who cares? They came close to Cuba and the button and all of that. But I think we need to have and that's what the thing is. We have the Democrats in the House that will kind of help with the social issues, the environment, women's rights, whatever. All of that stuff that is kind of like the soft bleeding heart type of stuff, okay? But you need to have somebody very, very decisive in the executive office to deal with those that don't give a shit about you or your principles. You can't have someone hemming and hawing in the executive office when it comes to making quick decisions. We're not going to negotiate and present to everybody the intelligence. Trump is not going to go and try to sell somebody like Pelosi whether or not we should do these preemptive strikes when something is brewing out there. J-Juice is intelligence, and that's why we're preemptively dealing with the weaknesses in your body, so you don't have to end up in hospice or dealing with some trigger disease. Trump is not going to allow another 9/11 to happen, which is basically like cancer, because you got to liken it with the J-Juice and or not doing J-Juice and 9/11. When you allow things to build up to such an extent and not do anything about it, and then there's maybe potentially infiltrators. Who knows? I don't know how. There's so much stuff on YouTube that I can't even know what's right or wrong. But anyways, but you can't let things build up and then have some kind of explosion. Because it could mean that it could be your kid. It could be your mom or your dad or a major breadwinner of the family. Okay? You can't let things build up. And so we know that there are forces out there that don't like us. We have to deal with it. And it's interesting that NBC News, who's been so anti-Trump lately, they're reporting that the Iranians are not stamping on the Israeli or the American flag. It's really the government that's messed up over there in Iran. Okay? And so having a unification of the people where everyone is working on some kind of democratic type of society where you have law and order, you have infrastructure, you have a pro-life approach, So we can't save every single life because there's so many predispositions out there. But if we get everybody on the same page, we can have relative peace. No, we're not going to have 100% peace, because there's always going to be somebody that's going through an imbalance, that's going to do stuff that's against the law. But you have now an infrastructure to take care of those that are crossing their boundaries, breaking the law. Law and order is why America is so strong. And we don't have law and order like out there. You have then people crossing each other's boundaries left and right, because no one's holding anybody accountable out there except for the world court. Okay, so the law trumps man-made law and natural law. Natural law will always trump man-made law at some point, but man-made law is like a stay of execution. The law, man-made law, is a stay of execution. But too much man-made law, will then trigger natural law, which is either a death trajectory or a life trajectory. And so you're seeing that split right now in America and in the world. So, with the whole thing with JJ's, I had to go political, because the human body, the body, mind, and spirit, everything is connected, and your politics manifest from your body, mind, and spirit. So able-bodied people are going to be more conservative and more financially savvy. They're going to be leaders. And the ones that are not very able-bodied are going to be whining about why they don't have enough programs, whining about that they don't have enough opportunities. Even though, I'm watching right now some guy on my Facebook who's a very major socialist. And he says we have enough resources to give everybody a home that's homeless. And I'm like, we have resources out there. We have welfare. We have this. We have that. What more do you want? At some point, when you have so many people leeching off the system is going to fall and fail. You got to have somebody contribute to the system, or you have then people just consuming and not producing. But he's not very able-bodied. He's able-bodied just enough, but not enough to not trigger needing welfare. Because he admitted that he utilized welfare a lot. And, he just found a job. He has health issues. And now, I used to be Democrat because I had health issues. I came from California. I moved to Ohio. Took on my husband's genetics. He strengthened the shit out of me. His family strengthened me. He strengthened me. This weather strengthened me. Now the J juice also strengthened me. Because I'll tell you, even though you can go to a place where it's very strong, if you're not strong enough to rise up, then they will eat you up. Ohio could eat somebody up very, very easily. The Second Amendment Republicans can eat you up very, very easily if you're not strong enough. But the J juice was that balance of force. It gave me enough strength to handle the strength of my convictions and the politics in the world that I've chosen to be in. And so now I understand that, yes, now I'm more Republican. If anything, I'm fully Republican than I am a Democrat. And it has to do with the balance or imbalance of body, mind, and spirit. And the ones that are strong, they're Democrat, rely on the social programs, the government grants that work with people who have lack of ability, who've been abused, who've been victimized, racism, all the isms the Democrats glom onto. And the Republicans are like, dude, we just want to get our country going, have a good, thriving environment. We have a very hardworking family. We're not getting involved in the isms. And so that's why you have the split of Democrat, Republican. One day, I hope we have all Republican, because that means that everybody is strong in our society. But when you have more Democrats and socialists than you do Republicans, there's something going on. There's a tipping point. The weaknesses are taking over. When you have more Republicans, more Republicans in America, that America is becoming stronger. And those are the indicators of how strong or how weak your country is. When people are asking for more social programs, more socialists, your country's becoming weak. Look at the countries out there that are socialists out there. North Korea, Russia, and all that. They have, bombs and everything, but the people, they have dictatorships. Okay? So luckily we have a good balance of power, a good balance of testosterone and estrogen, adrenaline versus oxytocin. I mean, it comes down to the hormones. That's what it comes down to, is hormones. And which hormone is most present. But no, I don't want someone that's full of oxytocin, full of love, love, love in the office of the president, because they will be eaten alive by those with adrenaline, by those with testosterone in other countries that also have just as many weapons, if not more. There's no way I want somebody that's not an alpha male in my presidency. So that's how I legitimize my that's how I legitimize all of my politics. Thomas, Domino, opinions, all opinions. So are you going to troll me? Is that what your point is trolling me? Like, what's your point here? Because I don't like trolls on my page. I don't deal with trolls very well. Okay, bye. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has them, but they're backed up by hormones. Everybody has hormones. And you will know the type of hormones that has come to surface based upon your politics. And so when you have a hormonal imbalance, that translates into your politics. And then you project weaknesses. Weaknesses, whining, cancer, disease, chronic illness, aging. And so maybe one day in the future, we'll have somebody very well balanced enough to handle the social issues as well as foreign policy, and can work well and play well in the sandbox with leaders in the House and the Senate, and we have harmony in the House, the Senate, and the executive office, and the judicial branch too. Phone, thanks. Awesome. Yeah, I dropped this phone many times, and it's impervious to any kind of trauma. So yeah, but right now at this point, Trump and the House and the Senate is a reflection of our society. We have a lot of war within, war in our government, war out there. And once we calm down the war within, we will see more peace in our own government. And no one's going to question whether or not someone's violating the laws. We'll see more peace out there because we're going to project that peace. And we'll learn how to speak to listening to people that don't understand us. If we can't even speak to the listening to people on our soil, there's no way that we're really going to be that effective in speaking to the listening to people out there. So sometimes you just have to then apply chemotherapy, apply cannabis, apply what you need to apply to stop the programming of major casualties. That's all weird. That's what all war is that sometimes, cancer cells have to die in order for you to live. It's called Darwinism, pure Darwinism, capitalism, Darwinism. And you have to apply that when it gets that bad. And that's why we hire these people to go and be the ones to look for the intelligence. And to question that intelligence It's like what people do when they have cancer, disease, and chronic illness. They question the body's intelligence and they throw pills and powders and supplements and detoxes and immunotherapies and all these procedures to try to buy life and buy time. And in essence, it becomes more aggressive. You have compound predispositions, because that's what right now is going on, is that right now in families, you have compound predispositions, because not only do you didn't take care of the root cause of why it is that you have your specific issues, but then creating a baby creates more trauma. And then the baby takes on more antibodies due to more things in the environment because of imbalances. And now not only have the parents' genetic compound predispositions, now you've added more to it, plus then all of the pills, powder supplements, and detoxes you've applied, which causes more trauma, all the therapies. And so that's why you have now kids are even that more, even that much more disparate in as far as their emotions and their hormones. And you're seeing kids that are so devoid of empathy that all they are is just pure logic, no empathy, no compassion, pure Darwinism. And they manifest that by, if they don't like something, they want to kill you. And they will express it. I don't like you. I want to kill you. And then you have shades of it. Then you have another kid that is so full of adrenaline, has no boundaries, and they will try and everything, do everything, and then so then you see this. Then you see your children are a reflection of the imbalances in you, and then they're out there in the world trying to survive with those imbalances. And then people are trying to figure out what job would be good for them, but they still have to get along with people who are not like them. And how are they going to mesh with regular society out there? If you have a war within here, you have a war out there, and there you're going to have this split, because we're creating more splits. I mean, right now the Frontline is doing a segment or a piece called On the American Divide. Well, that shows you the disparity of your hormones, the imbalances. It manifests in your kids, in the population. The strong are going to survive. The Republicans who are able-bodied are going to completely eat up the weak Democrats. I mean, seriously. Because when it comes down to it, it's law and order and Darwinism. Only the strong will survive. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. So you guys, lately I've been posting some memes and gifs about, eating popcorn, because it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be so entertaining to watch. It's like watching a tennis match all over Facebook. With the anti-vaxxers thinking they won because they cut down legislation, or they stopped legislation from going through, or they think they have, that hasn't really been totally substantiated yet. But then we know when you have the Ebola virus come through, and the ones are not vaxxed, when we throw in like all these different chemicals at their kid, or minerals or acids at their kid, causing more predispositions, causing them to be weaker, thus getting the Ebola virus, you're going to see Darwinism play its best hand. And so do the J juice. Seriously, do the J juice. I'm telling you, because that will take you out of the war, and you're going to watch, and you're going to be strong enough to handle the environment, the political climate, the climate change, whatever. But if you're afraid of the salt, you're afraid of the cabbage and the kale, you're afraid of waterfalls, you're afraid of shitting out your ass, okay, fine. You can keep all that poop forever until it totally methylates, DNA methylates and asphyxiates your cells and causes more imbalances. And then you'll be one of the Democrats out there going like, we need more social programs to deal with my weaknesses because I'm not able-bodied. You know why we have people who have so much money in our country? Why we have families that run cities? Because they have a strong family genetic line. They pass down good information, good genetic information, and good information to their offspring. And they're able to stay in power. And those that are bitching about that haven't figured out how to create from nothing. And so the whole point of J-Juice is now you're able to create from nothing. So those that are already have power in your city and power in, whatever, you will just strengthen your weaknesses and stay in power. Great. You earned it. Those that are weak, that are doing J-Juice, are going to strengthen and then create something for themselves and be in a powerful pole position in whatever it is you put your mind to. Because now you're going up against people who are degrading. We have, the baby boomer population already degrading. There's going to be a lot of jobs opening up pretty soon in the next, up to 2030. There's going to be a lot of opportunity in the next 10, 15 years. Get yourself well now so you can be able to compete against the world, because that's what you're competing against, is the world out there. Not just American people, but the freaking world. And you have far better chance in America to compete against the world, because the world out there, they're still degrading. Not everybody's doing J-Juice. There's still people out there, that have done J-Juice. That are in like Peru and Africa and Asia and Egypt and all that stuff, but not enough. My protocol is English based out of America. I hope most of America is doing it, but I hope everybody else out there is doing it too. That's great. I'll strengthen other nations that are just like us. Will our enemies do J-Juice? Probably not, because they don't even have the infrastructure to even handle the cabbage, water, and salt, or the know-how. They're too distracted with trying to take us down. Okay? So if you want to strengthen America, strengthen your freaking body. Strengthen your kids' bodies. Because they've not only inherited your weaknesses, but they're taking on more predispositions and more traumas because of the environment. The environment is aggressive. Bullies, viruses, political things. You want to help America, you get your body so strong and become a Republican with shades of Democrats, but not completely. Let me tell you, even Republicans are not compassionate. They just don't want their money given to everybody who doesn't really care about contributing. But I know some Republicans that go into Africa and help with the infrastructure in Africa. Took in a nanny from Africa with her 2 kids. I used to work for them because I was a nanny that took their place when they got into a divorce. So she took the nanny and the kids, and the father was left with this 5,000 square foot house. And I had to go, and help out this family. I didn't have to, but I wanted to go in and be a nanny. So I helped out this family. And now one of the kids is married to someone that's running for Congress or running for a representative. I'm not going to tell you which district or anything, so I don't want to totally, let you know who they are. But yeah, I worked with a family that's totally Republican. And both the kids are doing well. Yeah, I mean, one kid's being married to somebody that's going to be running for, for office in their district. I mean, I think that's awesome. And they helped me out, as in my 20s, being a nanny, and they helped out that family, took them, gave them an opportunity. These kids, that were the nanny's kids, they have now tremendous opportunity. They're put in college. They're from Jamaica. So Republicans, they want people who are able-bodied, who are willing to work for what they want, contribute. That's what it comes down to. And so when you're aging and degrading, you're not contributing. Yeah, you're going to take on Democrat, tendencies. Okay. But that's why we have the split of the political parties. Okay. So now you understand how politics and health and wellness and religion, because I did cover that a few transmissions ago, how they're all connected. Religion is just another way of explaining body, mind, and spirit, death trajectory and life trajectory through stories and symbols. That's all religion is. Polytheism versus monotheism, it's all the same stuff. Viruses. So just something to think about, okay? But you could be unvaxxed and have predispositions and then trigger autism. You could be vaccinated, have predispositions, trigger autism. And if you don't strengthen your body, you're going to trigger every single disease in the book. Because the compound predispositions, which is antibodies in the body not being released, will agglutinate. And if you have more of a specific predisposition of antibodies floating around in your blood and you're AB positive or A positive or A negative or B positive, B negative, that's the antigen that will trigger some kind of disease either now or in the future. When you're O negative, you're showing that you don't have as much antigen, but you can still have hormonal imbalances. Being O negative doesn't mean that you're completely healthy. It just means that you don't have as much antigen floating around causing predispositions. However, you still have to balance out your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. I know people that are O negative that are very obese, and it has to do with hormonal imbalances. So you got to fix the weaknesses, okay, and release the excess, and then you're going to see your body finally morph back to what it was originally intended, whatever that is. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know what normal is when it comes to sexual orientation. It doesn't even matter, because reproduction comes from the body on a death trajectory because it needs to drop seeds to then repopulate to mitigate against extinction. So when you're 100% well, you're not going to have the propensity to want to reproduce because you're going to be the best copy of yourself, okay? So I don't even get into what is supposed to be normal as far as, you know, sexual orientation. It doesn't even, I don't even care. It's all normal, whatever it is you subscribe to. However, there are laws that if you cross them when it comes to sexual orientation, then, you know, you have to answer to the man on that one. So, you know, if we get everybody 100% well, they're not going to be triggering those reproductive qualities. With this thing where, you know, the Supreme Court's not going to challenge states that want to allow topless for women. Oh my God. That right there is Darwinism. Women run around topless, and there are people out there that are getting triggered by anything that is remotely looks like skin. No, no, no. But again, Darwinism. Again, hormones. And when you have cannabis being legalized, causing more hormonal imbalances, I'm telling you guys, we're reaching a tipping point. The anti-vaxxers, the drugs being legalized, what else? Holy shit. Foreign relations. Oh, this is going to be so fun to watch this next decade. So fun to watch. And I'm going to be sitting back eating my popcorn, trying to drop seeds of hello, but I know it's going to fall on deaf ears on at least half the population who are that weak that are not going to listen to my information. So I have no problem taking on a side, and it's going to be a Republican side. And if there's a Democrat that gets in, I will still support him or her and then deal with whatever fallout from somebody that weak in office. It's not going to make the necessary decisions. And Benghazi during the Obama and Clinton thing was a representation of what a Democrat's going to be like when it comes to foreign policy. That should tell you everything. That's why I want a Republican alpha male until we can get everybody out there on the same page as far as strengths and weaknesses. Because you can have a female that will be decisive and understand, but right now our females out there are not that way yet. They're still stuck in the feminism thing. Or we do have Republican females out there, but I haven't seen any that's willing to rise to the level of a Trump that has enough of a background to make people secure in their choice. I think Hillary Clinton was probably the closest, but she did not do herself any favors with her husband as well as Benghazi. Okay, so it's going to be a while before an actual female will become president. So yes, I'm going to go for an alpha male with a financial background, maybe catering a little chauvinistic. That's fine. His wife is beautiful. Fine. His kids are beautiful. All right, you guys have a good day. Thanks for listening. Bye.